I would like to share more dreams that I believe are confirmations of the raptures and some dreams and visions pertaining to end times and the Great Tribulation. A few days ago, I had a dream of one of those travel buses or coach cars, I guess you call them. It was nighttime and the bus was empty. It was a male driver and there was a woman sitting to his right in the front of the bus. At the beginning, I wasn't in the bus yet. I was on the street and there was a conversation on my phone about some child. It was a boy, and his parents were not taking care of him or something. So I knew we had to find him and take care of him. Then I was sitting in the middle of the bus and we were driving, and we knew we had to find that woman who knew where the boy was. And apparently that woman happened to be a prostitute, so we drove by this sort of bar that she was standing in front of, and we picked her up. Someone I told this dream about thought she could represent Mary Magdalene and basically the redeemed sinner. Then we kept driving towards the exit of the town, and we found ourselves on this empty parking lot, and there was a teenage boy that we also picked up. And it was the woman for both of them who went towards the door and helped them onto the bus. So because I have had dream about trains, and I know some people have had dream about planes regarding the rapture, I think it's confirmation. I think the driver might represent Jesus, and the woman could be, the bride, the church, and that this is representing the gathering before rapture. My mother also had a dream that she was on a train with my father and his boss. And so my father and his boss were going towards the restaurant on the train, and the wagons got unhooked. And so my mother was going towards another direction then. And she said it shifted into another train that was fancier and had a really great restaurant. And she said, I had a dream about separation but not rapture. And because of their context, I think it's telling her she's getting ready for rapture, whereas my father is not yet believing in, being fed the word of God. And that this is what the restaurants represent. What makes me think that also is that I had a dream prior to that about my father driving a black car and it arriving at the feet of this really, really steep road bump, I guess you could call it. I don't know how to call it. It was so steep that it was completely vertical, and he paused at the feet of it for a while, and then he went up it. And I think that might represent the Great Tribulation, which might be where he's headed at the moment with his beliefs currently. Some of these dreams are personal to my family and my family members, but I think they're interesting to share, and that they're confirmations of the times and of some interesting details. The next dream I had was a sort of interrogation room with two large tables. One of them I was seated at, and the other on the other side of the room was my father. And there were these men in suits, which I think were FBI or CIA agents. And we each had sheets of paper in front of us on the tables, and they were writing down locations and names of people, basically itinerary, like things we had to do. For example, for me, it was going to a mall in a certain city that I know, and then going to taking a train to another town to go visit someone I know. and that the cost would be covered. And I basically think that was representing loss of freedoms and being told what to do, likely by the authorities or the government. Because then there was my sister and my mother sitting on the table on my side, and then I think they took my father in another room or something. We found ourselves alone, and then I looked at them and I told them, "Do you see what's happening? Do you see what I was warning you about?" And they looked really grieved and said, "Yeah, we see it now." I had another dream that I'm not going to share the whole details of, but what was interesting is that at some point I was sitting on the floor across from this young woman and we were playing a cards game, and I just knew I had a good hand, but the cards were actually blank. And what that makes me think of is maybe the enemy's plans and us being a step ahead by God's grace. And the next dream makes me think that as well, with a symbol that's in it. In this dream, I saw a sort of patio where there was a man and a woman seated at a table. I believe they were supposed to be some type of co-workers or something. They were wearing sort of waiters' outfits, and I think he was smoking a cigarette. And he was talking about his car and how modern and fast it is. And I was on the threshold to a sort of, it was like a stone cellar, a room, and I was sweeping the floor. And I saw this alcove, and in it was, I think it's called a caduceus, the same symbol as for pharmacy and medicine, with the two snakes. And this one was made out of glass. It was very elaborate and it looked a bit precious. But then I noticed that it was broken, and I don't know whether it was me that had broken it or not, but I was really happy that it was broken. And I also knew that it was very important, especially to the two people, the man and the woman that were outside, and I didn't want them to know that it was broken. And what that makes me think of is maybe the vaccine and the plans of the enemy over the church. And in that case, the man could be represent in that dream the Antichrist, and the woman, the whore of Babylon. Also, the room, the cellar, could represent a hiding place or be represent the rapture of the church. And last night I had a dream of a white room with a crowd in it. A lot of people, they were just standing and waiting, which again I think is a symbol of the rapture and the bride being ready.
Walking, and there was this really tall man, and he was covered in white robes. I couldn't see his face though, and I was on his right side, and we were walking in the grass or something, and then I wanted to go to like this building, and I don't know why I wanted to go to the building, but I wanted to go to this building, and I was like, oh, it's gonna be really far if I walk it. Let me just slide there. So I guess slide it to the building, and then in the building it was like grass inside. It was very very pretty, and then it was grass inside, and people were getting fruit that was already good to eat, and they were burying it underground. And I was thinking, why are they doing that? This is already good to eat. And they kept doing that, and then I started doing it, and they started going faster and faster and faster. And then after, I just there was a, and then after I heard, it's too late, or I heard it's too late. I don't remember exactly what I heard, but I heard like that's it, like it's too late, or like time's up, or something like that. And and then like there was an earthquake, and I was in the building, and I knew it was like the end of the world. And then I was right by the door, and I was thinking, oh, I shouldn't have left Jesus. I shouldn't have left Jesus. And people there were terrified. They were on their knees crying, and they were just terrified because, that was the end, you know. And the tall man that I was walking with that was wearing all white robes, I knew it was Jesus, but I didn't see his face or anything. I just kind of knew it was him. And I remembered that dream recently, and I guess, a rapture dream that I had in 2017, I think it was. Yeah.
Over a year ago, I had a dream that I was sitting down in my living room across from the TV, and from it or behind it came a black horse right across the living room to where I was sitting, and then behind me, almost like it was a portal. And I'm not sure anymore, but I think I looked behind me and there was like a field with several horses, and now I think it might have been the horses of Apocalypse, that the other ones were the white and red one. So this one would be the famine. The second actual vision I ever had, I guess this was an open vision as well, was set in a desert. It looked like North Africa, but it could have been Middle East. It almost looked like Egypt because there were sort of pyramids, but I think there were ruins. And I saw a line of people in orange jumpsuits, and I was one of them, and I was on my knees facing death. So there was an executioner with one of those masks over his face, and he was holding one of these swords, the Arabic ones that are kind of wide. I'm not sure if you call them saber. Uh, I think one of the names is jihad sword. And I look up at him, and my only concern is to show that I don't have fear, but I have peace, to know that I'm dying for the Lord and about to be with Him. And it's like I'm shining, like there's actual light coming out of me. And I know it must be grace manifesting through me, just the love of Christ. And right before he makes the gesture, I see his eyes widen and him being reached by it. Where this woman who's been arrested is in her prison cell, about to be put to death, and she prays that God strengthens her to show love to her executioner so she might be a witness to him. Not long after that, I also had a vision of a facility or camp, and I believe it was women's only, or maybe women and children, but I knew it was a gender separation. And I saw in the corner of a hallway a woman, detainee or prisoner, being sexually assaulted by some guards. I would like to leave you with a vision I had also over 2 years ago, maybe three now. I don't have many visions, and this one is, I guess, what is called an open vision. I'd never had anything like this before. I was in a room that I knew was in heaven, and it had marble plaques all over the wall. I think they were graven with, I'm not sure whether it was names or words. And I saw an angel from the back. I could see the wings and a robe. And they saw me. I want to say he, but it was like ungendered. And when he saw me, I don't know if I was in my own place for this vision, but he looked very surprised, or I guess afraid. So he froze and looked at me with wide eyes, and he dropped something. And what he dropped to the floor was a brass cup or bowl. And I guess the floor must have been made out of marble too, because when he dropped it, it made such a loud sound. That was the loudest sound I'd ever heard. And I must have been resting or napping, but not really asleep, or at least not in a deep sleep, and it just jolted me awake. And because of the marble floors and the the way that the room was made, there was such an acoustic to it, and it seemed to echo really wide. And that reminded me of the scripture in Revelation 8 about the prayers of the saints. Then another angel, having a golden censer, came and stood at the altar. He was giving much incense, that he should offer it with the prayers of all the saints upon the golden altar which was before the throne. And the smoke of the incense, with the prayers of the saints, ascended before God from the angel's hand. And at that time, I was discovering about spiritual warfare and intercession. And I think the graven plagues might have been prayers, and this have been an encouragement regarding prayer.